You're watching the Battered Fans Network.
Since 96, MLS has been the youngest soccer league. From 10 teams to 30, playoffs and parity. Battered MLS bring local guests to cover games. Analysis firsthand, not Google like other lames. Stats and recaps cover the West and East. Can't forget, we're on Sean Johnson, watch every week. DPs for the elite, 10 Gam get you the vets. Playoff trees as American as it gets. It's time to turn off the world, grab a drink and let's go. We're Battered MLS fans, so lock in on the show. Battered MLS fans, so lock in on
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 96 of the Battered MLS Fans Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Garan, and alongside me, I got Mr. Samuel Rowan from the third sub representing Vancouver. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, in some ways wish that today had gone differently, but at the same time, I think we got the final we were asking for. It was back and forth.
Game.
It was entertaining. It was a great game. I think I saw someone on socials say that, MLS Cup's hit rate for great games has actually been pretty good, and I totally agree, and this fit into that narrative. And overall, I think the way the Whitecaps played, for the most part, there was a lot to be proud of, a lot to be pretty happy about. So we can obviously talk about some of the things that went wrong, some of the things that went right for Miami that led to the result. But I think the feeling from most people, whether it's media, supporters, people around the team, happy with the way the team played in many respects, but obviously disappointed with the result, I think is kind of how people are feeling in Vancouver at the moment.
And that's fair because I felt like Miami, the previous two games for Miami against Cincinnati, against NYCFC, they were on the other team was on the front foot for the first 15 minutes or so. Miami scores early, and it feels like the game completely flips on its head, and then Miami takes control the rest of the game. Whereas in this game, Miami came out aggressive early. They scored early, and then it felt like after the first 20-minute mark, Vancouver completely took over the rest of that first half, where it felt like they were eventually going to score. And Sabi had a point-blank shot where Rocco blocked with, I think it was his shoulder. And if that goes in, I think the game might be completely different.
Well, and I think similarly, so you outlined it really well. From minute 18, 20 onward, the rest of the first half, Vancouver was sort of searching, but I think most people were kind of saying after the first half that Vancouver wasn't quite incisive enough, quite clinical enough with their passes. Like it was a lot of kind of feeling around the edge of the box, but not a lot of, precise attacking sequences. You mentioned that one Sabi chance.
Yeah.
But then I think that even continued into the second half, right? And
Absolutely.
Second half, I think Vancouver made a couple little attacking tweaks, and they started to find those more direct chances, leads to the Ali Ahmed goal. And then once it's 1-1, that was when I really felt like actually the field tilted, and it felt like only Vancouver was going to score the second goal.
Absolutely.
Then Emmanuel Sabi hits the double post, and I feel like there was a bit of air out of the balloon in that moment. Then Jesper Sorensen makes a couple subs. All of a sudden, whatever that field tilt, that momentum that there was, it just kind of dissipated in that moment. Miami goes down, takes advantage of an opportunity. Kubas, who'd been playing great up until that point, makes a huge error. And then that was it. I think to me, the Sabi chance and then the Kubas error, that was where the match flipped.
That was the game.
Because honestly, without those two moments, it felt like, and okay, we're sitting here in BC and we cover the Vancouver Whitecaps, so obviously we're a bit biased. But up until those two moments, it felt like only Vancouver was going to win the match in the second half. Because all the traffic was headed in one direction. Miami looked quite tired. They looked kind of out of ideas. Mascherano was just telling them to kind of sit back. But Inter Miami, there's so many talented players. There's so much veteran experience. All they need is those couple moments to flip the match on its head. And at the end of the day, that's all Miami needed to get the job done. So, a couple big moments that had a real impact. But, that's cup finals. That's big matches. That's what happens. And obviously it's disappointing for Vancouver, but you take that experience and you do what you can with it.
I was sitting in the first row right behind the goal where Sabi almost had that second goal. So it happened literally right in front of me. And not only does it go double post, but Falcon goes to clear it, and Sabi kind of dives at it, and it hits his foot, and then deflects back onto the post.
Yeah, I mean that one was very much the outside of the post. The other two were obviously, but it was crazy. I mean, that could easily bounce off the keeper and end up in the back of the goal or something, right? Like you never know what's going to happen in those cases. But that's just cup finals, and then you leave the match in the balance, and all it takes is one moment to have things flip the other way, right? And we know how dangerous Miami can be in those countering scenarios, and Vancouver allowed them one of those, and that was kind of all it took.
The momentum was definitely Vancouver's favor when they scored that first goal, though, because they scored that goal. Shout out to Vancouver fans for showing up. They were over 2,000 deep, and they got loud after that goal. I think it was Sabi that went up and started telling him to get hyped up. And then immediately after, it felt like 90 seconds later, maybe, is when Sabi had that other opportunity. And it felt like Vancouver's going to score. Like, that's what it felt like. Like, eventually Vancouver's going to get in. But I think Mascherano's subbing of Segovia and Bright were great decisions also, because they're very steady presences in the midfield defensively and with their hold-up play. Chris, you were going to say something?
Well, what I was going to mention was, because Sam, I was listening to your sort of the analysis, and I thought it was interesting because you're 100% correct, and I didn't really realize it until you brought the point up that like the momentum was there, and the moment that substitutions were made, it's like if it just sort of flattened,
just pop the air in the balloon.
I didn't really feel that. Yeah, and I didn't see it really. Like it didn't hit as quickly. But when you mention that, now that I kind of recollect the game, like, holy crap, that's like pretty accurate. Yeah,
taking Ali Ahmed off the pitch, I think, was a mistake.
Well, so it's interesting. We're gonna have to hear more in the aftermath. But there was talk about Ali, I guess, having some kind of illness during the week, and maybe this was truly like as much as they knew that Ali couldn't offer anymore. Obviously, they have the data on the sidelines too, right? Like they can see strain, they can read all these metrics to figure out where the guy's at. But certainly, I think we can talk a bit about the subs, right? Which is. I think honestly, forget about let's just suppose that Ali Ahmed needed to come off. Let's grant Vancouver that.
Right.
Why the heck did Thomas Muller stay on the pitch for all 90 plus
90 minutes?
He looked like, and this is not obviously.
Has he not been healthy completely recently?
He's one of the greatest players of all time, one of the winningest players of all time. So like no disrespect, but he was not physically 100%, and I think you could see that like within the first 10 minutes of the match.
Right.
I kept saying, I said it on social, I would have liked to see Gauld come in at the 10, not in the wing, at halftime. To me, that seemed like a change you wanted to make. And then equally, I think, Sabi and Ahmed, obviously they were kind of your two brightest players, so it's tough to take them off.
Yeah.
I also think if we're going to talk about the center backs, Ralph Priso, again, I think that was physical and they had to take him off. But we saw Matias Laborda against San Diego play at center back and play incredibly well. Why are you bringing Jodrick Poupe, someone who's played like 5 to 10 minutes in a Whitecap shirt? Why don't you just bump Laborda central and bring on Tate Johnson, who'd already done a tremendous job against Miami and CONCACAF? These are certainly things I think the way Vancouver managed the substitutes is something that we're going to talk about in the aftermath of this match. I don't want to say that was the difference, because I think that that's a bit harsh, because ultimately, Miami took advantage of their moments and Vancouver just allowed a couple too many of them. And that's where the match was won. But, in the margins, I think there's certainly some whataboutism we can do. Ocampo, right? Yeah. Like, honestly, you could have done the Ocampo thing at halftime. Like that wouldn't have shocked me if they'd done that either. Especially because Ocampo's the kind of guy that likes to play with aggression, and so if he's on a yellow against a team like Miami, that no offense to you guys, but I've never met a group of players that loves going to ground as much as the group on Inter Miami. Like with someone like Ocampo, you just can't keep him on the pitch. So. Certainly things that are going to be discussed in the upcoming days and weeks. Overall, Jesper's been very good when it's come to those adjustments this year, but Yeah, it felt a little slow to react, and then also those reactions were maybe not perfect in the moment.
There were 10 yellow cards given this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think they said
six to Vancouver, 4 to Miami.
I think Taylor Twellman said that he thought Drew Fisher was fantastic, which I mean, okay, I don't really know. Yeah, it was interesting. I guess that's the kind of match you're in for against Miami, right? We know this. Like they no one loves to get in the face of the official, to politic, to argue their case more than those players on Inter Miami. And you have the reputations where you can kind of sway and affect the match. And so I can't fault those players for doing that. But obviously, when you're sitting in Vancouver, that can be a bit frustrating at times, for sure.
It's a little different.
Yeah. That last goal, I mean, beautiful ball by Jordi Alba. Messi chests it down and chips it over the defender. I want to say it was Blackman, but I'm not sure who it was. But he chests it over the defender, puts it right in Allende's path. He gets a first touch with his head. Then I thought he nutmegged Takioka from where I was sitting because it's on the other side of the pitch. Somebody told me on the last show that it wasn't. But regardless, he scores the nail in the coffin, essentially, because that was the 96th minute. And at that point, Miami basically, we knew that they were going to win. Is this a successful season for Vancouver?
I mean, I think of the big picture, yes, absolutely. I mean, you made the final in every competition you entered. They played, I think, 53 matches total in 2025. Which
Miami, I believe, played 57, I want to say, yeah.
Yeah, because you guys were, I guess, Leagues Cup is even more.
And the Club World Cup.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Okay, so, like, these two teams have – I mean, these are amazing seasons for both these teams, right? Like, I think regardless of this match. So, overall, people are going to look back very fondly. I guess the question in Vancouver.
It's just fresh right now.
Well, it's fresh right now, but like also if we're this is like what we tend to do on our show is we tend to look ahead and we tend to worry about these things, right? Like, are Sebastian Berhalter and Ali Ahmed going to be back next year, right? Because I think the optimism about the team changes if guys like that take big moves in the offseason.
For sure.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So and then like Ryan Gauld's pushing 30, not getting younger. Thomas Muller, obviously, still very good, but a year older. Brian White, same thing. Yohei Takaoka, same thing. So 2026, there's still a window here for Vancouver, but like the window's limited, and especially if they lose a couple of those young players. Now, at the same time, Thomas Muller, I think, is going to be a big recruiting influence. I mean, we've seen what happened down in Miami, right? Like that's, Messi's been a big impact in the players they've been able to bring in. But that's definitely a question for Vancouver is like how much of this group will be back? Do they get picked apart a little bit? And so while this season's a success, I think it'll be viewed more favorably if Vancouver's able to return to similar form next year. So it's a big question right now. Yeah, on the relocation stuff, because I see some people in the comments, it's certainly interesting, and that the fact that Don Garber used the lead up to the MLS Cup final to try to strong arm and politic locally. I don't think was obviously viewed very favorably. I mean, the fact that The Athletic hasn't put up an article about the Whitecaps in like months, and then rather than talking about the MLS Cup final, they're spreading relocation rumors. And their article says that the team might move to Edmonton, which is just farcical. There's certainly, I certainly have some problems.
They're coming to the States if they leave Vancouver.
I certainly have some problems with that. But at the same time, I think beyond, same thing in terms of the team, but also in terms of the future of the franchise. Beyond like 2026, I think we know that the team's going to be pretty good and the team's going to be around. But beyond 2026, there's a lot of questions that are left unanswered. And so it's a fair concern to have, but I think at the very least there's next year to focus on. So, we'll just have to see what kind of developments we find over the offseason in terms of all the other stuff outside of the football pitch.
Just real quick before you go, Chris, I took a picture of when Inter Miami was celebrating, and there's Brian White there. Much respect to him. I love these type of pictures where a player is like, you can see how much it means to them that they just sit down and kind of just watch the other team. It's almost like fueling them for the next season. So
Yeah.
yeah, Brian White, big things coming hopefully for him because
Well,
he's had a great year.
it's funny because I saw that a little bit beforehand with Berhalter and White. They were
They sat
sitting
together.
down a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were sitting together on the ground while everybody was watching Inter Miami collect the trophy. And I looked at them and I'm like, damn, man, that is just soul crushing.
yeah. All right. Well, Miami wins their first. It's the 30th, right? So that's the end on the 30 years of MLS. Big time year. I think it was the playoffs as a whole. I think they were a great playoff run. I think a lot of great games. Vancouver had some great games. That LAFC game was one of the better games I've ever seen. Like that, it was just a great playoff run. And with the World Cup coming next year, I think that perfect time to have so many players and so much quality on the pitch. It's just really entertaining. Chris, anything else that you want to say about this game?
Listen, it's crazy because Vancouver, like I mentioned before, I think there's no better Western team than Vancouver.
Not this
I
year.
mean,
No,
this
I thought
made for a
they were the
great
top of the
final.
food chain.
I
Jaden Nelson should have gotten in
Yeah,
earlier.
and I think yes, yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to say look, the thing is, it sucks because if I was a Vancouver fan, I would still feel like fresh, like no, this wasn't a success. But I think, like what you said, Sam, it's in the long term. I believe it is a success. And look, Vancouver is around next year, and they're going to give problems. I mean, as long as people like Berhalter and Aliyama can stick around, if there's things that are moved around to keep some of the pieces, I mean, you guys are still a problem next year. So
Yeah, and I mean, I think that honestly, like an underrated part of this year's success is that Vancouver, for the last 2 or 3 years leading up to this, has had some of the lesser turnover in MLS. So yes, they bring in Mueller. There's some key little additions, but I think it's important to outline, and I've said this other places, that three players in particular, Pedro Vite early in the year, obviously he left, but then Ali Ahmed and Sebastian Berhalter, those are players that had been with the team and they just improved internally, right? They just leveled up their play. And that's Vancouver's not here without those players within the squad leveling up. And so I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. That was due to their own personal work. That was due to Jesper Sorensen doing a great job coaching them. And so I think there's a certain degree of confidence that, even if you say, for example, lose one of Ahmed or Berhalter, that perhaps there's other players, I mean, a Ralph Priso at the end of the year who all of a sudden leveled up in a major way. I think there's some faith within this group that they can continue to do that, continue to evolve, and as you said, be a real competitor next year. It's just, I think it's very dependent on can their top guys, aka White, Gauld, and Mueller, stay at the level that they're going to need in order to be a contender again. I think that's what it hinges on a little bit.
I thought that what won Miami the game today was a big part of it, not the whole thing, but a big part was the subs. Subbing in Segovia, subbing in Bright, and then not feeling the need to sub in Suarez because that this is probably his last game. And some people might think that, okay, you're going to put him in because it's the final game. And they didn't, because as soon as you put him in, you're defending a 2-1 lead. You're all of a sudden defending with one less player. So you don't do that. So shout out to Marciano for doing that. Sam, are the subs the reason that you think Vancouver didn't win? Is that the decision that maybe in retrospect should have been changed?
I mean, again, I'm going to, I think, say what I said earlier, and someone pointed this out in the comments. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back and find it. Yeah, so, I think ultimately Vancouver made two crucial mistakes, right? Like Ocampo leaving the Miami player on side and then scrambling to get back and deflecting it into his own net. And then Kubas just having an inexplicable moment with all the time in the world, not passing the ball, then getting dispossessed.
It's pickpocketed.
Those are the two moments that cost Vancouver the game. we can whinge about the subs, we can whinge about, officiating or all these other things. Ultimately, Vancouver made 2 big mistakes. Miami punished them. That was the difference in the match. That, to me, it's that simple. I think otherwise Vancouver was outside of those 2 moments. Otherwise, Vancouver was at least 50-50, if not the better team. But
for if you want to put it in one of those pie charts,
yeah, sure.
But I think Vancouver was the better side for a larger part of that pie.
Execution, finding a way not to make critical mistakes, is part of the game. Ultimately, Vancouver failed at that, and they lost because of it. So, to me, that's the way it is. Although I will say, and I'll kind of point out and kick it back to you guys, I don't feel like the CONCACAF version of Mascherano manages the game as well as he did today. So it feels like there's been a leveling up there from him, as much as him, running on the pitch and tackling players at the end was a lot. I don't know if he's my favorite guy in the world, but he really feels like he's leveled up in the second half of the season and in playoffs.
He has, and that's been a conversation down here that a lot of people didn't want him because of his inexperience. So with a team that you want to win multiple trophies, right? Because that's the goal, not just one, but multiple. You don't want an inexperienced coach, but that was the choice, and it feels like he's matured and gotten better as the years gone on. I'm going to ask one question to you two guys before we head out of here, and I'll start with Sam, and then I'll go over to Chris. Sam, after the game, and for those of you watching, Battered MLS fans, like and subscribe. Chris and I try to be as unbiased as possible, but yes, everybody knows that we are Inter Miami fans, right? There's no hiding that, okay? So
we just turned the hat backwards.
I saw the on X. A lot of people saying this is a dark day for the MLS. I can't wait for Miami to just become irrelevant again, and so on and so forth. Sam, what are your thoughts on Inter Miami, and is this bad for the MLS? Because that's what I keep hearing, that it's bad for the MLS. So what are your thoughts on that, Sam?
So it's a really interesting question. I'm gonna say no, because I think every story needs heroes and villains, and Miami's definitely a villain, right? Like I think that to me, sports are, and I've said this in a bunch of places, the only reason we find sports interesting is because we know the characters, we know the context, and all of those background factors make us invested, right? Like if it's just people playing in a vacuum somewhere, who cares? But when there's all these things that go into it, all of a sudden there's that different level of emotion. So to me, the fact that Miami is hated throughout the league, the fact that there's this perception that they've bought off and sort of, the whole league is rigged in their favor, that just adds to the drama. It adds to the mystique, everything that goes into it. And sure, you can be frustrated. You can have your issues with it, but I think that's what part of what, is going to make the league more and more interesting. I think we have these teams like LAFC, Miami. Those are the teams that really the Galaxy when they're good. The rest of the team really loves to take down a peg when they get the chance. And then there's your kind of scrappy underdogs. Like I think Vancouver, being a Canadian team, being out of mind's eye most of the time, is always going to have that underdog status, even if they are a really good team, just because of the narrative and the perception that goes with it. So, I kind of agree that I think I'll be, getting rid of some of these characters in Miami. Like it'll be kind of nice personally not to have to deal with it anymore. But I'm not gonna get up here and say, oh, it's bad for the league. Like that's insane. I'm not gonna say that.
Right, and I'll say this before I throw over to Chris. A lot of people feel like Miami's like buying trophies and stuff. This is like the first trophy they win. Like I get they won the League's Cup like initially. But like, what else have they won since then? Like they failed.
What would the narrative be if this had been a 3-1 Vancouver Whitecaps win? Like, what would the environment be like right now in Miami?
That's just another loss. So it's not like we've been like just racking up the trophies. Like this is the first real one. Like if you want to count Supporter Shield, technically, I guess. So everybody talking like they're just stealing all the trophies. Chris, your thoughts on Miami being good or bad for the MLS. And I mean, I guess obviously we know where you're going to go with this, but because that has been the conversation on X I've seen.
So, I mean, I'm going to bring up a couple comments to answer the question. Reaper saying, how can it be bad if it brings more exposure to the league? And then Rico saying, ChatGPT says 100 million watch. I doubt it, but the actual number was still astronomical compared to prior finals. That's a fact. Here's the situation, right? Like, you have a lot of people that are involved, like us. You know, I mean, they're sickos that love the MLS, want it to grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it does unfortunately take a Messi or a Messi-esque player to kind of bring additional eyes to the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, obviously, you have all these pro relicons that they love talking about how they want to grow, but like they're not getting a Son or a Messi or anybody. But if they did, you think all the other teams in USL League 4 or whatever league they're in is gonna be like, oh, I hate that team because they brought in such and such. Like, no, dude, it's helping us grow and it's bringing more eyes to the product. The key here is, I mean, obviously we have teams in Canada. It's not just about growing soccer in the United States. It's about growing soccer on this continent. And so if you're telling me that we can bring people like Mueller and Messi and have more people watching this game than ever, how is that a bad thing? There's legitimately people who watched Mueller and Messi only and watched this game only because of Mueller and Messi. And now if 10% of those fans become Vancouver or Miami fans, that's a win.
Well, Chris, I'll just add this as well. Messi probably never comes to MLS without David Beckham coming to MLS. So there's that butterfly effect there, right? Of the ones that did it early.
Yes.
So it all kind of, you do need these star players. It is, again, as much as it can be nauseating to fans who aren't part of those teams, this is necessary for the development of this league. And I think look at where this league is now versus like when the Vancouver Whitecaps joined back in 2011. Like it's unrecognizable, and a big part of that is because of those star players. And even you look at Messi now, and that's probably part of the reason that they're going to the winter schedule and the whole broadcast deal and everything that's come with it. You can't deny that impact, even if you're sitting here today being, covering a team that just lost to Inter Miami in the MLS Cup final. I think it would be foolish to ignore.
Shout out to
Danny, before you read that comment, real quick.
Oh, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Well, before you read the comment, I just want to say we went from a point in the MLS where we had plumbers and contractors playing soccer, and then fans were like, we need more quality. So then we get more quality, but it's like, wait, you can't bring in those guys.
Yeah, not
those
that type of quality.
Big, but we need better quality. Yeah. So it's like, what do you guys want? So go ahead, Danny.
No, I was just going to say, Lynn Ruther, Danny seems a little low-key, thought he'd be super happy. I have been. But
this is not an Inter Miami show.
Right. This is the MLS show, so I'm a little more subdued. I want to give Vancouver their flowers because they deserve them, and their fans also because they showed up big time. We sat literally in the section next to their supporter section, which was 3 sections deep. So shout out to them for showing up. But if you want to see like a real legit reaction, go check out the Battle of the Herons or Las Garzas en Español, because we had some fun on those, and we might have had some so that might
drink as well.
Battle MLS, we try to be as unbiased as possible when we do here. We just talk the facts, and but we don't hide it. We can't hide it. We're Inter Miami fans. He did steal a whole banner. We had our fun. So if you want to see us celebrating, go ahead, Battered Herons. But Sam, I do appreciate you helping us kind of just break down the game and trying to be as unbiased as possible in the Vancouver. And then shout out to you because Vancouver, I thought, had a great season. I've said it a few times this week. I had Sam on the same show in February, and we previewed Vancouver's season. And you were on for like 15 minutes because we were doing 15 minutes every team. And for like 8 or 9 of those minutes, we were talking about relocation. So to go from relocation to Champions Cup final, bring us Thomas Mueller, win the Canadian Cup, and then the MLS Cup final, amazing roller coaster of a season for you guys. And I mean, hopefully you guys trajectory keeps going up, because I think it was a great season, and hopefully you guys keep Berhalter and everybody, because I think you guys are set up for a great season coming up ahead.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on over the course of the year. It was a ton of fun, and yeah, it was fitting, I guess, that we did that preview way back when, and then Vancouver and Miami were the two teams remaining at the end of the year. So it's been a ton of fun to cover. I mean, this is, I think, undoubtedly going to go down as the most memorable season I've had covering the team, and hopefully it's the sign of more to come. And I imagine both these teams, even if they're not in MLS Cup next year, they're going to be in and around it, and certainly dangerous teams. So it should be a lot of fun. And yeah, thanks for the work you guys do, and look forward to coming back on in 2026.
Absolutely. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, Samuel_Rowboat on Twitter, thethirdSub.ca for all our written stuff, and then the Third Sub on all your social platforms, whether it's Insta, Blue Sky, Twitter, all that good stuff. So yeah, you can find us there.
Chris, any final words?
I'll do it so you don't have to do it. Eat it, Io. Eat it. Okay.
So if you're listening on audio, please leave us 5 stars and a comment. For those of you watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And for those of you in the chat, as always, you guys are the best part of the show. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us live. And that's it. The season is a wrap. Now it's on to the off season. See the new signings. See new players. Oh, and we got to bring up. Shout out to Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets. Tadeo Allende hit that third goal. Jordi Alba immediately dropped to the ground, started crying on the ground. So shout out to him, because you knew that his career was over and he was coming out with the dub. So a great year, and looking forward to next year. And I'm sure that with the World Cup here in the United States and in Canada and Mexico, more big names are going to be coming. This is going to be a great year coming up. But this is a stamp on this season. Miami ends the year as MLS Cup champions. They get the star, and a great season overall. I already said all those, and that's it. We'll be back at some point this week to talk a little more MLS. So until the next one, have a good one.